What's up, everyone? I'm Justin.
And I'm Nick.
And we're Fantasy Football in the Zone. But before we get into our Week 5 starts and sits, let's get into last night's game. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Minnesota Vikings
blowout on Thursday
42-10 to start off Week 5. And this season's flying by. But there was a good amount of production in this game. Eddie Lacy gave you the production you were looking for.
Jordy did pretty good. Got back on track.
Eddie Lacy gave you the production you're looking for as a top 5 pick, like you most likely got him as, and he had a great day. Jordy Nelson had a good week. Cobb had a solid week. You expected more from Jordy and them, but they had a solid week.
Matt Asiata didn't do very good this week. Coming off a 30-point game in PPR this year, this game he only got 5 points. He had 72 yards and a lost fumble, so the fumble's -2.
If you guys had a defense on a bye or had a defense against a struggle, hopefully you picked up Green Bay like I did. They had a great defense, great game, a pick 6 by Peppers and much more. A lot of sacks that game. But Nick, start us off with your star quarterbacks.
My star quarterbacks is Ben Roethlisberger and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Although Ryan Fitzpatrick didn't have the best week last week, I expect him to be a solid bye week replacement this week. I think solid 15-20 points. I just kind of like the matchup. I think it's going to be, they're going to have to pass to keep up with the Cowboys, like the Saints tried to do, but the defense was too strong. And my second guy is Big Ben. He's going up against Jacksonville, which is the main reason I like him. And I see a lot of productions from all the Steelers running backs and wide receivers and tight ends. Heath Miller,
Antonio Brown,
Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, all these guys in PPR leagues are going to be going off.
I agree with you. And now my star quarterbacks are Russell Wilson and Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is a guy, the perfect reason why you guys should get a quarterback later than early. Phillip Rivers is one of the hottest quarterbacks out there right now. QB1, and if you have a guy like, you might have a top quarterback ahead of him because you might have got him as a backup. But at this point, you have Peyton. I'm starting Rivers right now unless you have Peyton Manning or
maybe
Breeze Rodgers or someone like that. But right now, you cannot bench Rivers unless you got one of those guys we just named. Rivers is playing too good, and he has a great matchup against the New York Jets' terrible secondary. And I like Russell Wilson this week on Monday Night Football against the Redskins.
Awesome matchup.
He's been playing great. I like him as a mid to high quarterback one this week.
Sticking with the Seattle game, my sick QB is Kirk Cousins. He's a young quarterback on Monday Night Football, and he's going up against a tough matchup. I really don't see a scenario where, and he's coming off a tough week, I really don't see a scenario where he puts up 15, 20 points. I see like 10, 5 points for him.
I agree. I think you could maybe get 15 points out of him, but would you really want 15 points out of your QB1? I would be looking for a better matchup.
Yeah, my second sick QB is Tom Brady. He took a beating last week against the Chiefs, and a similar defense with the Bengals. They're not a pushover defense, and I really don't see Tom Brady doing anything. I think he may not even be on your roster.
At this point, I think I don't even hold him on your bench. Just release him. If his name was not Tom Brady and he didn't have the previous seasons as he did, he would be on the waiver wire. He has not been producing, and week after week we're saying give him another chance, give him another chance. But this is week 5 now. It's not week 1, and he has just been struggling. He played the Raiders. He had some good matchups and just has not been producing. Good matchups, hasn't been producing. I think it's time to say goodbye to Brady.
12 teams and under. 12 teams and under, I think he's gone. Unless maybe you're in a QB2 league, he's a hold, is a low end 2. Yeah, that's really it.
Now, my sick quarterbacks are Joe Flacco and Andy Dalton. I don't like Joe Flacco this week against the Colts. He's just too inconsistent on the road. He's on the road this week at the Indianapolis, but he's just too inconsistent. I think there's better options out there. I don't trust this guy this week, and I don't like Andy Dalton versus the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. I think they're going to run the ball a lot with Giovanni Bernard, and I just think there's better options out there. Now, move on to your start running backs.
My start running backs are Rashad Jennings and Darren Sproles. I love Rashad Jennings. He's basically been a 1 the whole season. I drafted him in the 3rd round as my RB2. He's been producing better than my running back 1. And he has a great matchup this week against Atlanta, who led up 30 points to Matt Asiata last week and like 18 in a standard scoring league to Jaren McKinnon. And my second guy is Darren Sproles. He has a pretty good matchup this week week. And although he's been boom or bust flex option in a PPR league, I think this is one of the weeks where you're starting him as a low end 2 flex option. I love the matchup.
I agree with you with Jennings, but disagree with Sproles. Jennings has been a mid to high running back one at this point. It's been a great bargain at where you got him. But Sproles, hopefully you guys sold high on him in the week 1 or 2.
I still think he adds depth to
I
your
think
team as a
I think
flex.
he's a good depth guy on your bench, and you might play the matchup with this guy. But as a 2, I don't trust him. Maybe a flex. But I think I'd be safer if I just trade him away. Once he has a great week, I would trade him.
Yeah, if
I
you
just
traded
don't
him
trust
week
him.
1 and 2, you got lucky.
The Eagles are passing a lot, and they have LeSean McCoy
they also
there.
have
He's
McCoy
been
ahead of
struggling,
him.
but he's going to get his touches no matter what. My start running backs this week are Zach Stacy versus the Eagles. The Eagles been struggling against the run, and I think the Rams with the quarterback they have right now, in order to compete with the Eagles' high-scoring offense, they're going to have to run the ball a lot because they don't really have a great quarterback right now or main wide receiver option. And I like Frank Gore. Frank Gore every year we're saying he's done, and we thought that Carlos Hyde would get
he
a lot of
keeps getting
carries,
his
but
touches.
Gore is always getting his touches, and I like him as a solid RB2 this week. Now let's move on to your sit running back.
My sit running backs are Donald Brown, and I don't like him this week. He didn't have a good week last week. He didn't have a very good week last week. And also, it's the Jets. The Jets have been really good against the run. Reggie Bush and Joyce Bell didn't do that great last week.
Either did Lacy.
Yeah, a lot of running backs haven't been doing too good. And my second guy, he isn't a sit. He's more of an owner's beware. They're going up against the Broncos, and Drew Stanton, Fitzgerald, and Floyd are really going to be needed to be throwing and catching the ball to keep up with this high-paced Broncos offense. There's really going to be no room for Andre Ellington to produce.
I think in the beginning of this game, they're going to be trying to get something out of the run because Ellington's their main guy. Drew Stanton, he's really not a top quarterback to compete with Peyton Manning, so they're going to be running the ball a lot. But at some point in this game, I expect, because the Cardinals got a good defense, but I expect the Broncos to maybe get a big lead, not big lead, but a good cushion for the Cardinals to have to start throwing the ball. And my running backs are Stephen Ridley and C.J. Spiller. 2 disappointments so far. Stephen Ridley going up against a tough Bengals defense. I can't trust him either. I don't trust Marine also. And C.J. Spiller going up against a tough Lions front with Fairley, Sue, Ansah, those tough guys. And he just hasn't been producing. I think I'd rather Fred Jackson at this point. Now, let's move on to your start wide receivers.
My start running backs are Michael Floyd and Keenan Allen. And I like Floyd because, like you said, at one point in this game, when the Broncos get their cushion, Cardinals and Drew Stanton are going to be throw, and I see a pretty big game for Floyd. And my second guy is Keenan Allen. He's, excuse me, I had him as my keeper, and I thought he was going to be my 2. And in the first 3 weeks, I was pretty upset with what he was putting out there to me. But last week against Jacksonville, he took advantage of the matchup, put up 24 points in a PPR league, and I think this week he also has a pretty good matchup.
Against the Jets.
Yeah, against the Jets.
If you look at it, the Jets' run defense is very good, but their pass secondary has been struggling all season long.
Golden Tate went off against the Jets last week.
I like Michael Floyd a lot. At this point, he's the better play than Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald might also be another guy on the waiver wire right now. He's just not consistent. He's been struggling. He hasn't been producing for the last few years now. He might not even be a guy. I think he's worth a roster spot at this point, but if you're in like a 10-team league, I might just dump him to the waiver wire. My start wide receivers this week are Kelvin Benjamin and Percy Harvin. Love the matchup Percy Harvin has against the Redskins. He's been a good bargain also where you got him. And Redskins, I expect they really don't have a great secondary, and I expect him to be a high to low wide receiver 1 this week on Monday Night Football. And I like Kelvin Benjamin this week. He's been Cam's number 1 target other than Greg Olsen. And the Bears secondary's really been struggling with Charles Tillman sidelined. And in order to compete with the high-octane offense of the Bears, you got to throw it a lot. And with an injured backfield on the Panthers, I think Cam Newton's going to have to throw it a lot.
Jonathan Stewart, both of them aren't going to play. Jonathan Stewart down full. D'Angelo Williams definitely.
Darren Reeves, nice sleeper this week.
I think he was a good waiver wire pickup this week if you got him. My wide receivers are Deshaun Jackson and Eric Decker. Deshaun Jackson's been super inconsistent. 1 week he does good, next 2 bad. And I really don't like the matchup this week going up going up against Seattle. I really don't see him having a big game this week, especially in non-PPR. And my second sit wide receiver is Eric Decker. He hasn't really been producing. He's also been hurt. And the Chargers last week and the last few weeks have been putting out there a pretty good defensive secondary.
I agree with you. My sit wide receivers are Julian Edelman, a guy you might not be able to sit. He has more value in PPRs, but Brady's been struggling. That offense been struggling. They really haven't been enmeshed together, and they're playing a tough Bengals defense. And I don't like Larry Fitzgerald. Like I said before, I think he might be a guy you drop on the waiver wire potentially. And I really like Michael Floyd a lot more. And this week, I'll start tight ends. I like Greg Olsen or Martellus Bennett. Other than Kelvin Benjamin, Greg Olsen is a safety blanket for Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And Martellus Bennett, he's probably a top 3 tight end right now.
I'd say top 5.
He's right now, point-wise, he's been really producing.
Yeah.
High tight end 1. I really like him this week, and they have so many weapons. Jeffrey, Marshall, Forte can't really cover one of these guys. He's a great play this week.
My star tight ends are, Heath Miller and Antonio Gates. Like I said, I expect Heath Miller and all the other Steelers receivers and running backs to go off this week. He had a pretty good week last week, and I expect him to do great things this week. My second star tight end is Antonio Gates. I keep saying he's done. I was so wrong. He's been producing out good numbers, and like he said, and like I said, Jets' pass secondary hasn't been great. I see a big game coming from Gates. Tight end.
Agreed. I see a big game from everybody having to do in the wide receivers, tight ends, quarterback on the Chargers team right now. And my sit tight end is Dwayne Allen. He's a guy who you should pick up, but this week I really don't trust him. Ravens, I don't trust him against the Ravens. And Kilby Flynn has been seeing a lot of targets, and that week the wide receivers you really can't trust them. Tight end, they're so inconsistent on the Colts. And my other sit tight end is Jason Witten. Jason Witten has been struggling lately, hasn't been producing the way you expected, and I don't think you could start him this week.
Yeah, my sit tight ends this week, I agree with you. My sit tight ends are Zach Ertz. He's only had like 3-4 fantasy points the past 2 weeks, and I was high on him. I was on the Zach Ertz bandwagon in the beginning of the season, but I really can't trust him anymore. He's a risky play.
He is a risky play, but I wouldn't give up on him yet. I still think he's a low tight end this week. I think he's a mid to tight end 1 the next few weeks, but I just agree. I don't trust him this week. If you have like a guy like Travis Kelce, I would start him.
If you were lucky enough to get Travis Kelce. My second sit tight end is Jordan Reed. He hasn't really been producing. Plus, he's going up against Seattle.
Hurt.
Yeah, he's also been hurt. And to wrap things up, my sleeper defense is the Chargers going up against the Jets. Lions defense did pretty good against them last week, and I'm continuing with the train. I like them going up against the Jets.
Once again, we're going against the Jaguars. My sleeper defense this week is the Steelers. I just don't trust the Jaguars to move the ball, and that's why I pick up the Steelers defense. And that should do it here. We're FF in the Zone. I'm Justin. He's Nick. And tweet us at FF in the Zone. And we will answer all your questions.
Or
make sure you subscribe.
Comment down below.
Agreed. Thank you for watching.